Good morning, I'm Tommy Lee. This is Northern ADV and Touring. This morning, I'm going to go ahead and change out the air filter on my 2001 Honda Goldwing. I've never done it before, first time, but let's do it together, and then when you're ready to do yours, it'll be a little bit easier for you. Okay, so for this job, I think the first thing we're going to do is take off the seat. And in order to take off the seat, we got to take off the two grab handles. For removing the grab handles, we need a 6mm Allen wrench. Anyway, there's two on each side, so we'll go ahead and take those out. Alright, my two little grab handles are off. I'm just going to set those aside. Once you get it up at the back, kind of lift it up, and then you can pull it back a little bit from the front, and the seat comes right off. We'll just set that aside. As soon as you take the seat off, you can see how much dirt and dust accumulates under there. So while I have my seat off, I'm going to give that a pretty good cleaning before I go any further here, just for kicks, just to keep everything in good shape. Okay? Alright, so that just took a minute. I just gave it a little spray and a wipe, and it's 1,000 times better than it was. Then you can have a better look at your frame and everything else in there, make sure everything looks good. Okay, next I think we're going to take off just the little push-on side panels. Okay, so with the two side panels off, we can go ahead and remove the lower little shroud nuts here. And it's a 10mm socket. Okay, I got both of these nuts out and pulled out at the bottom. I think before I can pull it out at the top though, I need to remove this cover over the gauge cluster and ignition. Okay, so on my bike, when you remove the little speaker grill, there is an Allen screw in there that you have to take off. Looks like on both sides in order to get this gauge cover off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, when you go to take this gauge cluster out, there's a little wiring harness that you have to disconnect that goes to your controls in the center of your cover here. So I'm going to reach in there with a little flathead screwdriver and see if I can open up the little clips and unclip it. Okay, once you disconnect that little clip in there, the cluster pulls out and you can set that aside. Okay, next it looks like we're going to need to get rid of these little thin strips of molding around the cowl here. And they're clipped in there. You got to be very careful removing them so you don't break off the clips. Start at the bottom, work your way up. So yeah, removing those two side pieces here exposes all your Allen screws we're going to have to take off next. So I'll go around and take off this other side, and then we'll take off all these Allen screws. Okay, so we have those strips out of the way. It looks like we're going to need to get rid of these two storage pockets on each side, because this whole thing is going to have to come off to get this off, this little cover off to get at the airbox, and so on. So on an 01 here, it looks like it has 4 of these little grommets that you have to push the center pin in, push the center pin down in, and then the pocket will lift off. So I've gone ahead and I've pushed these ones in on this side. Now, the one thing I'm going to have to do in addition on this side is disconnect my little release cable, because this box locks and you put the key in here and it releases the lid. So I'm going to have to figure out how to disconnect that. Then on the other side, I'm going to have to push the little aux cable back through the pocket to lift that side out. So we'll go ahead and do that. Just wanted to show you this. As I'm pulling the right hand pocket out, I've got a few little doodads in there. On the back, there I have got a little 12-volt power outlet here. So there's a little plug-in back in here. You have to disconnect that as well. Okay, so with those pockets out of the way on both sides, now we can go ahead and remove all these screws along the sides here on both sides. Alright, so I tried just pulling the cowling off here, and it wouldn't come off, so I just discovered there's two little Phillips screws right beside the ignition that you have to take off, and then we'll try pulling it off again. Alright, so we've got the wiring kind of moved out of the way. There's a few harnesses had to unplug, and I think now we're ready to take this little guy, which is most likely my cruise control, and my ECM. We'll take a couple of bolts out and move those out of the way, and then I think we're going to be at the air box, so let's try that. Alright, so as I said before, we're kind of winging this, pardon the pun, but your ECM and the cruise module is able just to kind of fold it out of the way, and we finally reached our air box. Now I see a Phillips screw down there. There's one down at this other corner. My camera can't quite get there. Anyway, down at that corner of the air box. There might be something on top, but we're going to try to take those two out and see if we can lift the cover off there. Okay, so we just pulled the airbox cover off, and the filter is stuck to the bottom of it. I'm going to pull it off in a second, but I just wanted to show the camera. I got a mouse nest in there. So I thought I was getting crappier fuel economy and a little less power, so my bike was starving for air. Pretty neat, eh? So we're going to take that filter off and throw the new one on. Okay, so I popped that filter off, and would you look at that? That's some nice material right there. So all these little guys are just stuffed full of fiberglass insulation. Absolutely totaled. Which is what I was hoping to find, actually. I didn't know. I just got this bike last fall, and I didn't know if the filter had been changed, and this confirms my suspicions. Perfect. I had set the filter in before I put it in, put the lid back on. I just want to show you inside here in the box. So in the air box, you have the throttle bodies down in there, and there was a bit of oil in there, and we cleaned it up a little bit, and we got this beautiful new filter. All right, so the filter is sitting right in place. It feels good. Feels like it's right in position. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the lid, and hopefully it tightens down nice and snug and even, and we'll be in business. Okay. We threw the new filter in, screwed down the top of the air box, and I just kind of put this little unit back in place, and I'm going to fasten it down. And then the little airflow directors go back in, the ducting goes back in, and then the all your electrical harnesses get re-clipped up, and the cowling goes back on, and so on. So I'm not going to go step by step putting it all back together. You can play the video backwards if you want, or just review it and take some notes, or whatever works. Hopefully it does help, but I'm going to put a little bit more back together, and I'll show you where we're at. Okay. Okay, so the shroud is back in. that's probably the most complicated part of this whole ordeal, is putting the shroud back in. You have to make sure that all your electrical connections are plugged back in while you still have access to them. On the stereo system here, there's two big clusters, and then there's the antenna. On your grip heaters, if you have a grip heater here, there's a plug-in back there. There's a cable going from this key to the release on this pocket, so you have to make sure that that cable gets reconnected. If you have trouble getting the shroud to lay flat, have a look. So you pop your tank and you have a look in here, and just the little overspray shroud was kind of, in my case, it was kind of stuck in there, so we had to pop it back out. On this other side, your other pocket, you've got, at least on this bike, maybe not all, you don't all have it, but this has a little 12-volt power point here, so that had to be connected in the back. And then the aux cord had to be shoved back through the little grommet in the back. And that's about all there was to it. As I had everything out, I cleaned everything in behind. So just wiped everything down. Your little screen, while it's off, clean it up a little bit. Just, I can do a little bit more cleaning in here. Anyway, anything you have access to, clean it up while you have access to it, because you won't in a few minutes. Okay? Alright, so now the cluster cover is back in. The speaker grills are back on. I tried the key and the ignition. Everything works, so that's one thing that is a real plus, is if you get everything showing up on your screen and you know everything's plugged in properly. So now we're just going to put the seat back on, and the little hand grip deals on the side. And the job's pretty much done then. And then, of course, you got to take it for a little ride. So let's finish it up. All right, it's all put back together again. It wasn't a terrible job, so don't be afraid of it. If you're leery about trying it, not a big deal. Everything, all the electrical connections are all unique, so you can't connect the wrong one, and everyone has a pair, so you can't really go wrong with that. I was kind of worried about that. I started it up. It runs really nice now. Let me just fire it up again here, and then I'm gonna get changed, put my gear on, and go for a ride. I can already tell that it sounds a lot better than it was before. Can't wait to try it on the highway. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time to check out this video, and I hope it helps you if you're about to take on the same job, changing out your air filter. Keep your stick on the ice, keep the rubber side down. You will. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.